All right, are we ready to go? I'll start off with something very different. So now for some reason we live in a world where I felt the need to bring this over from the UK. It's kind of crazy really. This is it's the new Monolith merch, see? It's got the logo on it. Yeah, it kind of shows how easily the world can like change in a fundamental way, right? We're like, what's happened in the last month? It's kind of bizarre. And I think that's kind of true for what we're doing in our industry as well. So let me start off by saying my name is Mel Gelderman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of this company called Monolith. And yeah, what we're doing kind of revolves around something also that is transcendentally different, which is, you know, what you guys are working on, right? We've literally witnessed, in the last 12 months, we've witnessed the birth of a new type of economy, right? An economy that runs in parallel to the world economy that we have today. And yeah, like it's growing exponentially. It's growing a lot quicker than I originally had anticipated when I joined Ethereum. In fact, I'm sure all of you have seen this, but this is probably one of the most beautiful images like you could imagine, where it's literally mapped out the birth of this organism, right? This thriving, the synergetic, right? It's more synergetic than the internet. Yeah, it's like a living, breathing thing. And for all its shortcomings, right? It's still, you know, we're seeing Avi like destroy it in some way or other to test its like limits. For all its shortcomings, it is still immeasurably better on a fundamental level than the world economy that exists today. And that's kind of what we try to achieve with Monolith. Like literally what Monolith is about this. It's about the decentralized Ethereum economy, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to wrap this up into a consumer-grade experience, right? Into a consumer-grade banking experience that you can actually live your regular life on Ethereum, that you can literally abandon the old world economy and start to live your life in this new decentralized paradigm, right? Yeah. So we kind of describe this as a DeFi account, a DeFi bank account perhaps. And that probably includes a whole bunch of things that we kind of need to actually be able to say that you can one-to-one replace this with your bank today, with your Revolut or your HSBC or your, like the big French banks, I forget, Société Générale. That's a bank, right? Yeah. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that we kind of see as being part of what you would actually need to live in this new decentralized economy. And that's this type of stuff. So some of this we've already built. So these are the green things we've built. We've built a non-custodial wallet, right, where you're in control of your money yourself. We've built a Visa debit card experience that allows you to do your daily all of the stuff you would do every day in the real world that you can actually spend directly from your decentralized Ethereum account, your DeFi account. And we've just today added DEX integrations into the wallet. The orange stuff and the red stuff is stuff I think we can achieve this year in 2020. And we kind of arrive at this point where we think we have like the basics to actually go out into the world and to tell people that there's this new economy out there and you can actually choose to be part of that rather than of something, you know, traditional, right? So some of the stuff I'll highlight here is we're going to build that you can have your salary paid straight in, right? So rather than having it like you'd receive pounds or euros normally into your bank account, but rather than having it, you know, be sent to some regular accounts and sitting there in pounds or euros, we're going to give you tokens straight away. So, and this would probably be compounding interest tokens even, right? Rather than stopping at just giving you DAI directly, we're going to give you CDAI or CHAI or whatever your favorite flavor is of compounding interest token. And like kind of the experience that we want is that a new user, someone outside of the space, kind of has this basic experience where he knows he's maximizing the value of his money. Ultimately, there's a lot more we need to do to make this stuff simple for people. We need to be able to compile your taxes. We need to be able to do user privacy. But that's all coming afterwards. So even the stuff we've already built, we've actually had to do a lot of stuff to get there. So Monolith was the first company in the FCA sandbox. The FCA is the UK's regulator. With them, we showed that what we could do was basically not have access to our user funds, right? And this kind of blew their mind. So what the FCA usually does is they have to worry about all these fintech companies, all these new challenger banks that are sprouting up, that are doing interesting stuff. But the risk is that if they go bankrupt, all of the users that they had will lose their money. And what we showed the FCA is that that doesn't have to happen. That in a worst case scenario, yeah, our users would still be whole, right? And that kind of blew their minds. Our system is quite broad. So on the one hand, we interact with the Visa network, which has required a whole different set of skills for us to develop versus the Ethereum network. So for example, for Visa, we've had to build a full-on AML checking system, right? We've had to show that we can make the Ethereum network safe to them. So that means that even though we can't access users' funds, we can still see funds going into their contract wallets, and we can track its provenance. And so our pitch to Visa ultimately was that we think we can do anti-money laundering controls better than a traditional bank could, because a traditional bank will only see the last step. They can't see, you know, like Revolut can only see that your money came from a French bank. It can't see where it came before. And we told Visa that because we can trace funds from their inception. Ultimately, we think terrorist financing and anti-money laundering will be a lot better to check for on the blockchain. And yeah, we've built a lot more. So on a we've checked our system quite thoroughly with penetration checks and yeah, like the largest audits, we've spent a lot of money on doing it properly. And all of this is kind of starting to pay off. So this is a chart of like the actual usage of our card. So since each user has full custody of their own funds, right? In the Monolith wallet, you have all money in your own control. When you want to use the card, you physically have to send an Ethereum transaction from your own control to a back-end top-up service, which is represented as a smart contract. So this is the cryptofloat.tokencard.eth smart contract. You can find it on Etherscan. And if you look at it, this is what you see. So here on the left, this is when we first went live. We had a closed beta for 2 months. And then, as you can see, so this is literally people sending ETH to this contract to top up, right? And this is only ETH. And then the way to read this chart is that more and more ETH gets added, and then at some point we have to like withdraw that from the specific contracts to top up our like fiat reserves with Visa. But as you can see, like the chart, like we reach the same amount of ETH every time in a shorter amount of time. And the growth is honestly stunning. So, like even comparing the last two months, we've reached the same fiat amount value in about half the time. And this is all without marketing. This is purely growth within the Ethereum community. People actually using our product day to day. I find this really interesting if you compare it to, say, like an exchange, where most exchanges in our space, they'll have like huge peaks of activity during like, when the price is going up, right? And then like, years of nothing. But what we've built is like, it's basically steady throughout, right? Because this is actually a daily thing. People are actually living their lives in this new economy, and it doesn't matter what the price is doing. And I zoomed in, I was worried. You can see. And so another interesting aspect is that the tokens that people are using, I think we accept like 14 tokens right now. By far, almost all of it is stablecoins. It goes ETH and then DAI, and then I think like a quarter of the amount of DAI volume is Tether volume, and then USDC, or the other way around. It's quite amazing. It kind of shows that, people aren't spending their crypto necessarily. They're just spending the stable assets that they have. I made this screenshot last night, and I noticed that since all of our users are in Europe, it was kind of funny to see someone in the middle of the night top up $300 dollars worth, $400 worth. Kind of wonder what they bought. I shouldn't be saying this. And then this is the the cumulative amount of money being spent. So this is how much is being spent every month. So this is euro. So this month, February, €122,000 was spent, which is up from 83 the month prior. And as you can see, all the curves are just crazy. It's really encouraging. Since we went live, we've seen, the people that get our products, they're amazing. So this is a guy, I like this. I took this screenshot last night as well. He's French. He says, rédacteur pour le journal du coin. La voilà, enfin, ma première carte crypto de chez Monolith Web 3. Je vais pouvoir commencer la transition de l'euro au DAI. So, if my French is correct, that means he's talking about transitioning from euro to DAI. And I think that kind of vibe is true for almost all of our users today, right? So this is Stani, God bless him. He's been doing crazy work, and from Avi. And he uses our card. He still wants, he messages me every day to add a DAI. We're working on it, Stani, I promise. People using it. Someone else from Stani's team joined a few days ago. Another French guy. So these people are literally the pioneers, right? These people are some of the first people to actually live this life that, I was originally promised with Bitcoin, right? So I joined Bitcoin like a long time ago now because it promised this vision of a different world, right? This parallel economy that, you know, was separate from the governments and all this stuff, where everything was transparent and decentralized. But, you know, the reality was that, and I quit university, I canceled all my bank accounts and I traveled the world with just a Bitcoin wallet in 2013. But the reality of Bitcoin was that virtually no one actually lived that life, right? Like no one, you know, we were all saying like, oh, Bitcoin's going to take over the world, but no one actually like lived that. And so that's what I think we've achieved here today, right? That we've built this product that for the first time, you know, people can literally start to peer over the wall of like human suffering, right? And look into this world that we're only able to envision because of Ethereum, right? Like Ethereum has given us this insight into a society that goes far and beyond what the current systems of control could ever produce. Yeah, I'm quite a radical, and I desire nothing more than to like leave the old world and like figure out how we can actually build a society that can take us to the stars. But there are some aspects there that need to be discussed. So I'm going to give a few observations. Hold on to your butts. So regulation is coming, which I'm ironically kind of representing with Agent Smith. You know, like $1 billion in DeFi is just about small enough to like fly under the radar, right? Now, if we want to reach, you know, in our case, we want to reach 800 million Europeans, right? We think this is the year that we can do that. If we want to do that, regulation is inevitable. It's the reality. And we have a choice about how we approach that. So it's going to happen no matter what. Either we stay, you know, like we have this vibe about us where we just, you know, we want nothing to do with the governments and like regulations and all this stuff, and end up getting regulated, right? Where they come in and they tell us what's going to happen, and you know we'll probably be kicking and screaming and it'll be awful. Or we self-regulate, right? Where, you know, and it should be obvious to everyone that that is by far a better choice, that we preempt it, right? But that means that going from $1 billion in DeFi to 100 billion, right? Going from 50,000 people in DeFi to like 500,000. Yeah, we're going to need to start thinking about this now. And I'll just talk about, you know, like why regulation even exists in the first place. So the reason is that without it, bad things can happen. So does anyone know what this is or where this is? It's a guess. This is London during the Industrial Revolution. So in London, as in France, across the Seine and across the Thames, loads of new industries were popping up, right? It was an economic boom. But consequently, this was a very new industry like ours. And, you know, these companies, they would just, you know, they would go about their business and they would, you know, dump their waste into the rivers, right? And so about 50 years after the Industrial Revolution, the Thames River was declared biologically dead, meaning that there were no fish in the river anymore. And, you know, today, like, obviously that's not the case anymore. It's been a complete 180, and the reason is because of regulation, right? That companies were heavily taxed for polluting the environment. And this, you know, like regulation exists because we want to we want to disincentivize behaviors we don't like. It's the same way that cigarettes have high taxes on them, right? And there exists this idea that our industry could be, you know, this free market mecca, right? That we could exist without regulation. But I think we're kind of witnessing the opposite unfold before us. So there's this crazy thing in our industry where, like, you know, all the Bitcoiners want Bitcoin to go to infinity, right? And there's even this, maybe some of you know, there's this thing called the Citadel, where it's like this future society where, like, Bitcoin has gone to infinity, and it's created this bizarre world. Imagine for a second that this does happen, guys. Imagine if, indeed, Bitcoin does go to the moon. Like, the amount of electricity that Bitcoin would consume would literally be like the greatest modern climate disaster, right? And why, right? Like, why are we even doing that when we have new technologies like proof of stake or whatever? Even if, you know, a group of Bitcoiners were to fork Bitcoin and make a proof of stake version, the old Bitcoin would still exist, you know, and like people would still keep mining, right? And so, you know, this is the type of area where regulation is unfortunately needed. It really is on the fringes, right, of our industry, just to make it work. And yeah, ultimately, I'm coming back to this image. You know, we need to really ask ourselves, what is that world that we're building, right? Right now, it's a world that, you know, it's this future DeFi economy. It's decentralized, it's transparent, it's trustless. But imagine if we can say it's a whole bunch of things more, right? So, yeah, I'll give you, so I really had a hard time deleting this slide. So there's been a trend in our industry, right, where we've gone through certain, like, chapters almost. Right now we're at chapter 2. And this is a chapter where we kind of are like using up all the opportunities to, like, provide financial services without any like data on the user itself, right? But imagine if in the future, you know, data exists for both for both people and companies, that, you know, allows you to get a mortgage, that allows you to get a loan without, you know, with just your identity, and, you know, potentially. So I've highlighted contribute to any movement, and with that I mean that imagine if in the future there's a version of Compound or a version of Maker where you know that if you're lending your money out to this system, the people on the other side, the companies on the other side, are only companies that you want your money to be lent out to. So let's say, rather than now where it's all basically like people who want to, like, leverage and, like, buy more crypto, instead we go to a world where you can make sure that your money is actually being used for green energy, right? That all the companies, right, they've got some sort of NFT, that's the only way to interact with this, you know, this new Compound version. And, you know, if they have, like, a specific type of token, then they can interact with it. If they're a green energy company or a nanotechnology company or whatever. Well, it would be amazing if we can build that, because, you know, trustlessness and decentralization are only stuff that we care about, not the regular world. And if we can go to the regular world and say that, here, you know, here's this new economy that we're building, and oh, by the way, it's so much greener, it's, like, equitable for everyone, it solves all these things. I'm not going to go into what it could solve, because I think that's up to you guys, and I think there's probably like much better people to talk about this. So yeah, you know, if we did our job right, we could literally, you know, create this economy where people want to exit, right, our current system, because they fundamentally understand that what we're building on Ethereum is amazing. Imagine if one day we can say that, you know, you could become a citizen of Ethereum and get like free healthcare or something, right? Like, that is something we could conceivably build, but like, that's not the type of, you know, direction things are going right now. We're limiting ourselves very much to the type of thinking, and we can accelerate very quickly towards a much more interesting future if we start to take this, you know, to like evolve our thinking about where should we be going next. And so then I'm gonna just finish off by talking a bit about what Monolith is trying to do in 2020. So this is the year, right? Like, I started in Ethereum 6 years ago? I don't know. And I did not expect that we would be where we are today with DeFi, which is a new word, as soon as we are, right? So the fact that we can go out there into the world today and say that, hey, you can get 7% interest on your dollars or your pounds or your euros, because they are coming, I believe, tokens from MakerDAO. Like, that's quite amazing, right? Like, that's something that, you know, it's not just about technology anymore. It's about, like, here are these practical things that anyone, like, would want, right? Like, you can tell anyone in your family who doesn't care about the stuff you've been talking about for the last 5 years, but that's something they'd be interested in. And so for us, this is the year that we can really go to the general public. And we're optimizing for Europe, right? We don't want to water down our experience, like try and be everywhere. No, no, no. We think we really have to compete with the best challenger bank services here, such as Revolut, such as Monzo, or whatever. And yeah, think we have to get a lot better at our user experience. Others are, you know, like we're very back-end technology focused right now. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We want to be the first DeFi bank, basically. So, because ultimately the reality is that you know, the end game here isn't trying to build for you guys. As much as I love all the people who are as passionate about this space, who are like dedicating their lives to this industry. You know, like we're all like this intermediate step, right? The reality is that most people in the world literally don't give a shit about how finance works, right? It's the last thing they want to think about. And so if we can just provide this experience where, you know, we just maximize their value, right? Like in the office, we're just joking about like how the only thing people care about is just number go up, right? Number go up. And so let's try and build that type of experience. And like the type of thinking that we're applying to that is, rather than having the portfolio view, which every crypto wallet has had, right, where at the top of your wallet you have this number, which is like the balance of all the assets beneath it, like let's scrap that, and why don't we just put one central currency in the middle of the experience, such as chai, right, where you know that if you get your salary paid in, go straight to chai, maximize your value. You only have to understand that, and then without spoiling too much about what we're building, we'll be able to provide a very incremental and yeah, quite kind of fun experience about learning about the rest of the industry from there on. So, yeah, it's all about you guys, right? Like, we're building this portal, right? I love this graphic. We made it literally last week. We're building this crazy portal, right? We're going to go out there into the world, freak people out a little bit. We're going to tell them there's this new economy and that they can get all this amazing stuff. But the amazing stuff that we can tell them depends on what you guys build, right? What is this economy that we're building? Let's make sure that we get, you know, we really do try and make it, you know, a society we actually want to live in. Because, yeah, we're not necessarily always thinking like that. And then, yeah, new update rolled out. Are there any users here? Any Monolith users? Yes, amazing. Thanks, guys. So, Yeah, today DEX swaps were added, so you can literally interact with virtually every DEX, and I mean the broadest sense of the word DEX, because it also includes like interacting straight with Compound and straight with like the underlying DeFi. Anyway, a lot of good stuff is coming. I can't take too much credit for it. Like, we have a few team members in the room. Like, these are the people bringing you Monolith, right? Building Monolith for you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take a few questions if there are any questions. Go ahead.
In what countries is the credit card available, and what is the plan for it to roll it out?
Yeah. So it's available in the European Economic Area. I'll repeat the question so everyone can hear. Where's the card available? So, yeah, in the EEA. That's the technical word. I like to say Europe because I don't think most people know what the EEA is. That it just means that everywhere in Europe except for Switzerland. Yeah, sorry. As far as other jurisdictions go, I think we're trying to build this core experience that resonates with people first. We're trying to nail it first, right? The types of questions we're asking internally is like, like if you have a wallet, right? You've probably got like 5 cards in it. What makes you pull one card out of the wallet over the other, right? All these reasons are very subtle, right? Like with a big old traditional bank, it's always going to work. With like a fancy new bank, it makes you feel a bit cooler, right? Maybe one of them does your transaction analysis better. What we're trying to figure out is how we can like kind of be an order of magnitude better than every other card in your wallet, right? And this will be done through DeFi, right? We have to think about what aspects of DeFi can we introduce to that experience that you always pull out your Monolith card. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is there or will there be a fiat on-ramp?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that's what when I said salary in, that is what I meant. So we're going to give you, like, I'm not going to give a timeline, but soonish, forget soonish, like first half of this year, for sure, we're going to give you an IBAN and a sort code account number so that you can, give it to your employer or whatever, right? And again, unlike every other service in the world today, basically, the moment the fiat, your pounds or euros, hit that account number, they're not going to sit there, right? We're immediately going to convert that to like, euro or pound DAI, right? Or chai or whatever, right? Or gold if the apocalypse happens, right? And put it straight in your wallet.
Is that like a given, or can you still choose? You cannot have fiat in your wallet?
Well, you can. What I fundamentally want is just an experience where I'm not holding on to user funds, right? And so we can still give you fiat, but it'll be in the form of a token, right? So, yeah, I don't know how, if this is public knowledge, but like there will be really good decentralized versions of not just the dollar, which we have today, but also of pound and euro. They're obviously all going to come, right? They're going to come in the next 12 months. And so as our users are all in Europe, it's kind of painful if we have to give them DAI because it's a dollar-based account. We're going to do that regardless. We're going to give them, CDAI. But ultimately what we want is that, it's just a financial experience like you're used to, right, with a currency you understand, but it's got compounding interest on it. And so that means we're going to give them, hopefully euro DAI or pound DAI.
And do you feel that like we're all comfortable with having euro DAI or whatever, but people that are not comfortable with crypto yet, do you think that they will have enough, that they will be comfortable with having everything in a token that is not really yet proven on the mainstream level?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are probably, that's a great question, you know, like we're gonna have to figure out. On the one hand, we have this huge pool, which is, you can get compounding interest, which is more than any other place you can get. Like even in the fintech world, there are cases where you can get like 7-8% on like peer-to-peer loans, right? Like that's similar to DAI, but the difference is your money's locked up. You can't, you know, 1 block later withdraw it all and like use it, right? So that alone is going to be a huge pull. And indeed, yeah, like for some people that's going to be enough. For other people, they're going to want more assurance. And so the stuff we can do there, like insurance. But yeah, you know, like at the very least, what is fundamentally true about the Ethereum economy is that it's anti-fragile, right? So our traditional economy, if something happens, you know, like everything kind of collapses and cascades. With the Ethereum economy, because everything is open, because everything is transparent, all attack vectors are tried, right? It's like this stuff is battle tested. And so assuming that DAI, you know, like DAI has existed for a while now. It's the biggest bug bounty in the world, basically. Yeah, the assumption is that it's only going to get better over time. But yeah, there's still risks. Any other questions?
One more question then.
How would you compare Monolith with Bitwala, for example, for other, because there are few, I don't know if they are competitors or not, a few other actors who provide banking cards, credit cards, so debit cards actually, with Ethereum account. How would you compare Monolith with some of these actors?
Yeah, so what makes Monolith fundamentally different is that our experience revolves around being non-custodial, that we don't have access to your money, right? Now, this is unquestionably an idea that's going to catch on, right? I think people, even the few thousand users that we do have, they definitely trust us a lot more than they trust some completely unregulated, you know, dodgy crypto company based, you know, on some Cayman island, right? With their crypto, right? Because that's how the world works today. Virtually every exchange. We've just built the Uniswap equivalent of a bank account, right? Where we don't have access to your money, right? In the same way that Uniswap doesn't have access to your funds. It's not sitting there like with Binance or with Kraken or something. And so I think that's where it starts. That is a foundational difference. Ultimately, we're also not about, you know, like spend your crypto, right? Like this whole pump and dump vibe that a lot of these other projects have. We're mainly focused on Ethereum. Well, only focused on Ethereum. And that's because, you know, we think almost everything else isn't actually that interesting. You know, like the only thing, like we're going to have to build a very compelling economy on Ethereum for it to actually start to draw in regular people's attention, right? And we're just optimizing for that. We want to give people the very best experience from this decentralized economy. You know, where we want to get to is that, you know, ultimately we can give people a better mortgage on their house than a traditional bank can, right? So, yeah, that's our focus, just this decentralized economy, maximizing the value for normal people. Yeah. Last question.
You have like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Was there someone in the back? Okay.
Is it?
I'm not sure. Thank you guys very much.